Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to continue on with cybersecurity threats, and we're going to be focusing on the section called malware. We're going to be looking at a lot of different types of malicious software, including viruses, worms, Trojan horses, spyware, adware, and ransomware. So let's begin. Malware is a term used to describe any malicious software that is designed to disrupt your computer or data. Now, there's several types of malicious software that you need to know about. Viruses, ransomware, adware, spyware, Trojan horses, and worms. Now, it's one of the biggest risks to the integrity and security of data, especially on computer systems, and you need to know how each of these threats work and what you could do to defend against them. Okay, let's start with viruses. Now, everyone knows something about viruses, and they list this as one of the most common threats. So how do we define a virus? Well, viruses are programs or program code that replicates itself with the intention of deleting or corrupting files or causing a computer to malfunction in some way. Now, viruses need an active host program on the target computer or the operating system, and this host program needs to be infected before the viruses can run and cause harm. Viruses are often sent as email attachments. They often reside on infected websites or on infected software downloaded onto the user's computer. Apart from all the usual safety actions, for example, don't open emails from unknown sources, don't install non-original software, always run an up-to-date virus scanner. And that's all that you need to know about viruses. We'll talk more about antivirus software in a later video when we look at solutions in more depth. But for now, just make sure you know that it's a program code that needs an active host program and it replicates itself. That generally gets you 3 marks. The next threat is worms. Worms are a type of standalone malware that can self-replicate as well. So they're just like a virus. The intention is to spread to other computers and corrupt entire networks. Unlike viruses, worms don't need an active host program. So you don't need to start a game for the virus to start spreading. It can spread on its own. They remain inside applications, which allows them to move through networks. In fact, worms replicate without targeting and infecting specific files on a computer. They rely on security failures within networks to permit them to spread. For example, a port number might be left open. A worm could go through that without you actually starting a particular application. It'll just work on its own. Worms frequently arrive as a message attachment, and only one user often opens a worm-infested email. However, this could then infect the entire network and keep spreading, just like a virus. And just like a virus, you can protect against this through having an up-to-date virus scanner, making sure you're not opening email attachment from unknown sources or downloading things from illegal websites or unknown websites. Just remember that worms are more dangerous than viruses because of their ability to spread throughout a network without any action from a user, whereas viruses require each end user to somehow activate the virus by opening a program. Otherwise, they're more or less similar. One needs an active host program, the other doesn't. The next threat is Trojan horse. A Trojan horse is a program which is often disguised as a genuine software or legitimate software, but with malicious instructions embedded within it. So you download a game and you think it's a normal game, but inside there's a bit of malware or spyware. That's basically a Trojan horse. Now, of course, there's an interesting story about the name in history. So if you don't know what a Trojan horse is, look up Greek literature and you'll probably find that story interesting. And chances are most of you've heard about it. A Trojan horse replaces all or part of the genuine software with the intent of carrying out some harm to the user's computer system, and they need to be executed by the end user, therefore usually arrive as an email attachment or downloaded from an infected website. There could be a fake antivirus program that pops up on your screen and claims that your computer has been infected by a virus. Click here, you click here, and the Trojan horse then obviously does its thing. Now, once installed on this user's computer, the Trojan horse will give cybercriminals access to personal information such as IP addresses, passwords, and other personal data. Spyware, including key logging software, can be part of a Trojan horse package. Because they rely on tricking end users, firewalls and other security systems are often useless since the user can overrule them by clicking download or install or allow download and things like that. So even though your firewall and your antivirus might simply say that this is a threat, a user might simply say, well, I want to install this game, I want to play this game, let's install it, and there it goes. So the best solution is to have anti-malware software installed, which could probably scan and protect, but generally it's good practice just to make sure you're aware that any software that you download from unofficial sources has the potential of being Trojan horse. The next threat is spyware. Spyware is software that gathers information by monitoring a user's activities carried out basically on their computer or their device. The gathered information is sent back to a third party, a cyber criminal who originally sent the spyware, and these are designed to monitor and capture activity, which could include web browsing, and it captures personal data, for example, bank account numbers, passwords, credit card details, and it then sends a log to the third party or the cyber criminal, which then scans through the log to identify this sensitive information and misuse it. Now, spyware can be detected and removed by anti-spyware software. The biggest danger of spyware is the method it is used to enter a user's system and exploit it. For example, did it come from social engineering or through a download? Because once you find spyware on your computer, chances are there is a big security hole on your system, whether through your practices or through actual software faults, which other more dangerous malware can use to infect your computer. For example, worms and viruses could creep in. So if spyware is found on your computer, it should set up alarm bells since a weakness of security is found on your system, which you need to fix. Another type of malware is adware. Adware is a type of malware which is the least dangerous because all it does is it attempts to flood an end user with unwanted advertising. So it's not causing any other harm apart from just flooding your system with ads. It could redirect your browser to a website that contains promotional advertising. It could make pop-ups keep popping up on your screen, and it could redirect queries from your search bar to another search engine, for example, things like that. Although not necessarily harmful, adware can highlight again weaknesses in your security defenses, be very hard to remove, and it defeats most anti-malware software since it can be difficult to determine whether it is harmful or not, because it's not really a virus or a worm, so it's very difficult to remove. And of course, it can hijack a browser and create its own default search requests, so it can feed you misinformation as well. The best way is that if you find it, you need to start looking up solutions on how to remove it. And once you remove it, you need to plug that security hole. Ransomware is another type of malware. This is the most common malware in this day and age. If you go to any news website, you'll probably see every day some company or other is being infected by ransomware. Ransomware are programs that encrypt data on a user's computer and hold the data hostage. The perpetrator or cybercriminal waits until the ransom money is paid out, and sometimes the decryption key is then sent to the user, and it's caused considerable damage to some companies and individuals. And in some cases, people can go bankrupt and companies can shut down because if they can't afford to pay the ransom, their data is locked forever. Now, it can be installed on a user's computer by the way of a Trojan horse or through social engineering. And we'll talk about social engineering later on in this video series. But when a ransomware is executed, it either encrypts files straight away or it waits for a while to determine how much of a ransom the victim can afford. It spies on their transactions, works out a number, and the malware can then initiate itself. Now, it can be prevented by the usual methods, for example, avoiding phishing emails, but once a malware is executed, it is almost impossible to reverse the damage it causes. The best way to avoid a catastrophe is to ensure regular backups of key files, and you make sure that these are kept away from your normal computer system. And if, for example, you get a ransomware attack, then you can wipe the system and reinstall it from your backup. Okay, those were the most common forms of malware that you need to know about. On screen is a basic summary of all the different types of malware that you need to know of. So do pause the video and make sure that you can go through all of these and that you memorize how they work and the dangers that might be possible. So viruses are programs that can replicate themselves with the intention of deleting or corrupting files or often causing a computer to malfunction. They need an active host program to run on the target computer and that has already been infected by the virus. Worms are types of standalone viruses that can replicate themselves with the intention of spreading to other computers as well. However, they mostly target networks and computers which have weak security and they do not need an active host program. Trojan horses are malicious programs which disguise themselves as legitimate software. They replace all or part of the software with the intent of carrying out some harm to the user's computer. Spyware is software that gathers information by monitoring, for example, all the activity on a user's computer. This information is gathered and sent back to the perpetrator who installed the software or sent the software, and this person can then go through the logs to identify personal sensitive information, and then misuse it. Adware is software that floods a user's computer with unwanted advertising, usually in the form of pop-ups or redirects. Ransomware is the final bit of malware that you need to know about. These type of programs encrypt the data on a user's computer, and provided a ransom is paid, only then a decryption key is sometimes sent back. If the ransom isn't paid, then the data could be misused, shared with other people online, or deleted. Most of the time, Trojan horses or social engineering are used to install ransomware. Now, hopefully this gives you a summary of the different types of malware, and you should be able to answer the following questions. What is meant by malware? What is the difference between a virus and a worm? How does spyware operate? You should be able to describe ransomware and how associated risks could be reduced. You should be able to define the role of a Trojan horse in deploying malware. You should be able to describe how risks from malware can be reduced. The answers to all of these questions, as usual, are in the video, so do go back if you can't answer a particular one. Now remember, look at the marks, and based on those, ensure that you have enough mark points to get those marks. If you do have any questions, as usual, type them in the comments and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.